Well, thank you all very much. Good morning to everybody. Good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining this intro session. We have one more after this if any of the questions remain. Um, we have an excellent group of we have a student and a couple of our fellows here. Um, I can tell you all the things that are supposed to happen in the program, and then Haley and Tasha and Sabrina can tell you what actually does happen in the program. Um, we're also joined by Aditya. So how about if we do some introductions to start with? So Haley, why don't you start?
All right, of course. So my name's Haley. I am a current student here at CBID, so I'm about halfway through my year here. I graduated a couple years ago from Wesleyan University, so I saw someone in the chat who also went there, which is pretty awesome. I'm from New York City, and for the past 2 years before CBID, I worked at Hospital for Special Surgery doing clinical research in biomedical engineering and some autoimmune disease. And right now, during my year, my two projects are project in urology for my national health project, and then a project in malaria control, which is being expanded in Uganda and also potentially Colombia.
Thank you so much, Haley, for spending the morning with us. Natasha?
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name's Natasha. I was part of the CBID program last year and just completed it in May. And now I'm staying on as a fellow, which is really exciting. I worked in the emergency department for my project last year, and now we've spun out a company called Vena Vascular. So I'm excited to be here and to tell you more about the program.
Why is it called vena vascular, Natasha?
It's because we're innovating on blood draws, which happen from the vein. And so, we just
Okay.
thought it'd be fun.
All right. Wonderful. Sabrina.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Saturday. I'm Sabrina, born and raised in New York City, very proud New Yorker, but I graduated from undergrad with a degree in chemical engineering, and I came to CBID last year straight from undergrad. So like Natasha, I did my CBID year last year. Continuing on for my second year, my two projects last year were my US project was in head and neck oncology. We saw a lot of really for lack of a better word, brutal procedures in head and neck cancer, but it was really a great learning time. And my global health project is tuberculosis in India. I'm continuing that project this year for my fellowship, and the goal is to be able to increase the remote use and accessibility of TB skin testing.
All right. Well, let's get into it. I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes. If you have any questions pop up that you have a question on any part of the slide, just ask it in the chat. I'm happy to stop, or Haley and Sabrina and Natasha, if you could perhaps answer in the chat, or we could call on someone. You could just call on the person to unmute and ask their question out loud. Well, my name is Youssef Yazdi. I'm the director of a center here at Johns Hopkins. A little bit about my own background. I spent most of my career in industry at Johnson and Johnson in their medical devices sector of the company in R&D, in business development, in corporate strategy. And then I joined the faculty here. I'm associate professor in the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and I run the center. I'm also innovation core director for another program as well, focused on medtech innovation and neurosciences. So this is my career is basically all about early stage medical device innovation and design. Back from when I was your age as a grad student all the way till now. This is a photo I really love. It really says a lot about our program. It's a team of CBIT students in a maternity clinic high on a mountain in Nepal. And things I love about this photo, I would say first, it goes to the core of what good design is all about, and that is being a good listener, listening carefully. And in the CBIT program, you'll learn how to not just listen, but turn what you're hearing into actionable insights, things you can actually do something about. You'll notice everyone has a notepad in their hand. They're not just listening, they're taking notes in a very structured way to understand what they're seeing. You'll also realize that they're in the place where the problem exists. And this is a key part of our ethos is you have to go there and see it for yourself. The woman seated to the left is a midwife who runs this clinic. And And it's so important to interact with people directly and understand them. And people often ask me, where does innovation and creativity comes from? I believe it comes from a passion when you've been there, you've seen it, you've seen babies suffer because they don't have a solution to a problem of respiration right after birth, or midwives suffer because they don't have a good tool for something to take care of their patients. You know, that emotional connection to the problem, that passion is what really brings out the best in you as a creative problem solver. I also love the photo because it shows the diversity of the class. These 4 students have 4 different passports with different backgrounds and very different perspectives on life. And I think that's also critical to design to be effective, is you need to have different perspectives in order to come up with really creative new solutions. The logos on the bottom kind of tell the story about organizationally where CBID is. We're a center within the Johns Hopkins Department of Biomedical Engineering, which is the #1 ranked Department of Biomedical Engineering in the world, both undergrad and grad. And CBID students are on par in terms of performance and success and qualifications to PhD and other master students in the department. So it is a very rigorous program. We are part equally of the School of Medicine and the School of Engineering. So that's why those logos are there. I have a PhD by medical engineering. I have an MBA. That's where I went to UPenn for MBA. Our center, we started 16 years ago with a very clear mission. And the mission is twofold: education and innovation. We care about you, your education, your development, and to become leaders in this field. So we choose people that have a potential to be leaders, and we train you and develop you to set you on a course to become a leader in this field. Whether you go into medicine after CBID, whether you go to grad school, further grad school education after CBID, whether you become a professor, whether you become a CEO of Medtronic, wherever your path takes you, or whether you start a company or multiple companies, the goal is to prepare you for leadership. And leadership requires several characteristics, and I'll say a little bit more about that later. The second thing we care about equally is the ideas. It's not a program that's just about education. It's also about impact. Impact through your impact in the world, but also impact through the ideas that you develop. And to be true to that measure, Aditya, for example, one of his jobs is to make sure that the teams have fellowship money to continue for 2nd year, like Natasha and Sabrina are doing, to have other access to resources. The university provides resources. There's small grants that build up over time, $5,000 here and there, then $10,000, then $100,000, then $1 million, and it develops over time. So we care about both of those. And how do we know if the program is being successful? How do we know if we're successful? 2 things. Are you being successful and having an impact on your career? And we've had students come back 10 years after graduation and say, Dr. Yazdi, I need your help finding a job. I need your help in sorting through something at work. I need your help making a big decision in life. The goal is always to help you ensure that you're on a trajectory to have serious impact on healthcare around the world. And then also your ideas. Are they actually making it? We have a great team. All of them really have a passion and dedication for this. There's clinical faculty who open doors and make arrangements in the hospital. There's business faculty like April Zambili Wiener, who is a very accomplished consultant, and she teaches the business classes. There are faculty who have decades of experience in medicine, MPHs, some of them. There's an amazing staff to help you get things done. Both on the technical side, but also administrative side. They're advisors and mentors, but the most important part of the program, I would say, to support you are fellows. And that's the bottom row. You'll notice there are some amazing young people who've completed the 1st year of the CBID program, and they applied and were selected to do the fellowship for a 2nd year, sometimes 3rd year, to start up their company, but also to help students like you navigate through the program. And the program also has excellent facilities, a space dedicated to CBID master students where it's basically your home base for you, and then design space, 3D printers, all sorts of resources across the campus, across the city, and access to even more beyond that for further development. We have a wonderful clinical advisory board. Doctors at Hopkins really are incredibly impressed with CBID students. They respect you because of the hard work that Natasha and Sabrina and others have done, and Haley has maintained in her class and previous generations of CBID students. The reputation is stellar, and that opens doors for CBIT students. And we also have an incredible advisory board of leading experts in industry, investors, not just the angel investors, seed stage investors, professional investors like NEA, corporate executives. And I invite you to go to our website and in the About Us tab and click on advisory board. You can see the kind of people that are here. And they're not just there to advise me. We also ask them to come and advise the teams. So I think Haley, some of them have met with you and your team. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so my team in urology is super involved with the faculty down at the School of Medicine as well as the faculty here at the Homewood campus. So we meet regularly with our clinicians. We have a wonderful team of champions there. They can give us kind of the business and clinical case for the problem we're looking at. And then the faculty here have really unique insight too. So there are some professors here that are more experience with like the design and narrative of these problems and how to frame them for pitches or business plan competitions. And then we also meet closely with the business advisors here. So like you mentioned, Dr. April, there's just really a diversity of opinions here. So you get to round out your problem and the narrative you're going at.
Thank you so much. We also have excellent partnerships with industry. And this is really important. And we do this for multiple reasons. Industry sponsorship and of a team provides additional resources for travel, for prototyping, building things, doing animal testing. It also gives the students in the program insights from people who are actually in industry and know some of the challenges that they face. And it's an excellent segue for those of you, especially who want to go into industry. And we've worked with almost all the major medtech companies in the past, and we have new partners coming in every year. We've also, as you may know, CBID is equally interested in global health innovation for low and middle income countries and regions of the world, both here in the U.S., by the way, and internationally. And we have great partnerships with institutions and foundations and organizations that are focused on global health innovation. I think the project that you're working on, Haley, it has some support from a foundation. You want to mention that?
Yeah, so our US Health project is supported by the Department of Urology down at Hopkins. So we work directly with the chair of the department who's, well integrated into the whole AUA National Urology Network. And then our Global Health project is working hand in hand with a global health startup that spun right out of CBID. So we're working very closely with, thought leaders in each community.
So that spin out was a company that was formed out of a CBID projects over multiple years, and now is a standalone company. They've raised money from the Gates Foundation and other places, and they are now supporting projects that Haley's team and others to work in the same field. Sabrina's project is funded by another institute here at Hopkins. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so for our project regarding tuberculosis in India, we're funded by the Gupta Klinsky India Institute, or GKII. This is basically a branch of Hopkins that operates in India and kind of acts as the liaison and research capital that links the two countries together. And they've been very gracious in funding our project, giving us a lot of technical mentorship, clinical, helping us to navigate the very wild landscape of being able to do research in a foreign country. So we've been getting a lot of funding and also thought and mental support from them.
Wonderful. Thank you. Let me say a few words about our thinking about design. The word design is a pretty broad term. People think about it in many ways. What we mean by design at CBID is to create a good solution to a problem. And how good it is as a solution doesn't depend on how good it looks, how cool it looks. It depends on whether it solves the problem. really, really well. That's the key. Bad design can look super cool. I mean, this is a fruit juicer that this guy named Philippe Starck, designer in France, has designed as one of his signature design pieces. They sell it at Williams Sonoma for like $50, and it's ridiculous. I mean, if you have one at home, I apologize if you spend money on it, but it makes a mess all over the countertop. But it looks really nice. I mean, I think it's more appropriate like for self-defense, perhaps, it's like solid, it's a heavy metal thing. You could really knock someone out with it, but it's just not a good design. It's not a good solution to the problem of, if your problem is getting juice from a lemon, this is not the right solution. If your problem is I want to show how, chic I am, then yeah, okay, maybe that'll solve that problem. And there's a lot of examples of bad design. I mean, these are, okay, so someone thought, hey, slides are fun. What if a slide had 3 ways you could go down the slide instead of just one way? 3 is better than 1. So let's try that out. Yeah, so that's not necessarily a good solution to the problem. See, it is like a little bit more exciting than or hey, how about a wavy slide? That'll be fun. I have to watch that twice every morning. That just yeah, okay, yeah, and then like somebody thought, oh, this night light for little kids at night, so they can sleep and have wonderful dreams. Yeah, so you have to think through it. You gotta and you have to kind of test it out in a real world situation to know what could possibly go wrong with your design. There's a whole subreddit, by the way, called Crappy Design, and it's not just theoretical. I mean, this is like real world. This is Anybody have any ideas why this security gate here for this apartment complex is not a good idea? All right. Whoever types the answer first gets 3 points. What's wrong with this gate? Yes, fantastic. Yes. I mean, how hard would it have been to make the slats vertical? I mean, it would have been the same amount of metal, the same amount of hard, sorry. This is my favorite. This is my favorite. So when electricity first started in New York City, after Edison set up his electric company and they started having electricity, if you watch The Gilded Age, they have like all sorts of scenes of like people first getting electricity. And so some genius said, well, install these electric fire alarms in different buildings. And then when you pull the fire alarm, it'll electrically send a signal to the fire station and they'll show up. So kids your age, you want to have fun. They would go and they'd pull the alarm and set up some chairs in front and watch the fire truck show up, and they'd laugh and chuckle and drink some beers, and it would be a nice, fun Saturday night. And then so the chief of police said, I have a solution to that problem. I'm going to put this cuff here, and in order to reach the handle to pull the alarm, you have to put your arm through the cuff. And the minute you pull the alarm, it locks your arm in place, so you can't get away. And there's a little key there. You see that little thing there? So only the chief of police has the key, and he'll show up. And heaven help you if you pulled that alarm falsely, because he's going to be there and he's going to get you in trouble and send you to jail. And of course, if there was a real fire, then I guess heaven would be helping you, because you would be gone. I mean, you'd be burned alive, I guess, right there. They'd find your skeleton burned to this. So it's like it solves one problem, but then it creates another problem. You see, this is one of the problems. This is like bad design. You create a problem, you solve a problem, which is a good solution, by the way, and then you create something even worse. And bad design can be bad in so many ways. It could be it's not functional, it doesn't do the job it's supposed to do, or it doesn't do it really well, it's not effective, or it's not safe, like that fire alarm thing. It creates additional safety problems. It's not usable, meaning it's not easily usable by somebody unless they have a lot of training and practice with it. That's a problem too, because not everyone has. You don't want to make medical devices that only the best of the best, like at Johns Hopkins University, can use it. Um, or it's not buildable or not affordable. It's not going to be accessible by large numbers of people, or it generates a lot of trash. It's like not sustainable for the environment. Or it could be that it meets all the above criteria well, but it's just not that much better than what's already out there. In which case, you kind of wasted your time. And the bottom line is, if it's not valuable to other people, it's not a good use of your time and creativity. And you know, the number one thing about ethics that they never teach in ethics class is how you use your time. It's the number one moral, ethical imperative that we all have as professionals. How are you going to use your creativity, your limited amount of time and energy and attention? You want to focus on something that really has a real impact and not on something that's just, you know, for show. And medicine is really in dire need of innovation. Medicine is a field where bad design is killing patients. Like my daughter has an allergy and she carries around one of these EpiPens. You know, every year, like 30,000 Americans accidentally stab themselves in the thumb with an EpiPen. And you say, okay, 30,000 dumb Americans. But no, it's not them. It's not their fault. There's something about the design of this thing where if your eyes are blurry and you need an epidural, epinephrine injection, and the design of it is such that you can't really tell what end you're holding on to. You should design it in a way that makes it a lot easier to tell, even if you can't see straight, whether you're holding it properly. You can't blame the user. You have to blame the designer to a large extent. So here's something I worked on when I started after grad school, around when I was your age. I went to work at Ethicon Endosurgery. This is a device that allows the doctor to remove your gallbladder through a tiny opening in the abdomen, and it cuts and grabs. It's like a little alligator clip, grabs and delivers staples and sends a blade down the middle to chop the tissue in half. It's beautiful. And it also looks nice, by the way. Good design doesn't have to look bad. It could look actually quite chic. This looks nice. You can rotate it with your thumb. You can make it, you can rotate it with this knob. You can rotate it with that knob. You can pull the handle to deliver the staples. It's beautiful. So it's a good solution to the problem. Saves lives. And at CBID, people have designed, these are examples of projects that other CBID students have worked on in the past. Good design can improve health, lower pain, make something that's manual, automated, make something that requires a high level of skill to be usable with a lower level of skill. Lowers cost, improves training, lowers risk, reduces waste, increases access. Maybe it teaches people. Maybe it empowers somebody to take care of their own health. These are all vectors of improvement or impact that a good design can have. But really, it's a journey that starts with passion and empathy. These are photos taken by CBIT students from different parts of the world where they've traveled, and going and seeing for yourself really makes a big difference. And that should lead you to careful and clear and respectful understanding. This is a cardiology clinic in Hyderabad in India, and the woman seated here is one of the top cardiologists in India. And the two people standing there, one of them is a CBIT student, Mallory, I believe. Maddie, I'm sorry, Maddie. She's a CBIT master's student, and then next to her is a young man who is working for Medtronic, and they're both together doing interviews and taking notes and understanding exactly what's going on with that, with the doctor, what the problems are that they could address. And like I said, two of the themes of CBIT is to go to where the problem exists, see for yourself, show respect, and then also develop a passion and be driven to try to help people. How do we do it? We really, at CBID, you'll be delving into 4 worlds, 4 languages. There's a saying in biomedical engineers, I think several of you are biomedical engineers, that we're bilingual. We understand the language of medicine and we understand the language of science and technology. But at CBID, you have to be quadrilingual. Is that a word? Quadrilingual? You have to know 4 languages. The language of medicine, the language of engineering, the language of business, and the language of entrepreneurship. Each of these worlds has its own culture, its own language. Going from one to the other is like becoming an immigrant. When I went from J&J to Hopkins, it was like immigrating. It's like if I said, I'm going to immigrate to England, how hard could that be? They all speak English. It'll be easy. And then you get there and you realize they have a different culture, different currency, different values, different pace of life, different sense of humor, very weird sense of humor, by the way, but it's a different world. The same thing when you go from engineering to medicine. That's why it's so important for you as a medical innovator to understand the language, the culture of medicine. You don't have to become a doctor, but you have to understand and be able to converse with the medical professionals. Yes, a good, excellent sense of humor. They have the best sense of humor, the driest, best sense of humor. The language of business, by the way, is very different than the language of engineering. Business people, they speak in a very different way. The way when you make a business plan, like when Natasha makes a business pitch, the reason why she's winning all these competitions, when she makes a business pitch, it's very different than the pitch she does when she's talking to the professors and the technical people. And the language, last but not least, of entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs are different than business people. Business people run businesses. Entrepreneurs build businesses. They build new things. They are a very different lot. They're the weirdest of them all. Different culture, different language entirely. And you really have to understand all four of those to be successful. And at CBID, we teach you how to do all of that, except in a way that's easily teachable and easily doable in a frugal manner. So you don't have to have, $100 million and 10 years to do it. You can do it in a very frugal way. And that's something you'll learn in the CBID program. Now, if you're thinking about grad school, you may be thinking of the typical master's or PhD program, like the one I did. The PhD program I did at UT Austin, we spent a lot of attention to the technical stuff and no attention to all these other things. We kind of just paid lip service to the medical application. And then we didn't really pay a lot of attention to the medicine, to the business or entrepreneurial parts at all. And we assumed that if it works technically, it'll be amazing. And my advisor said, Yusuf, listen, you can work on whatever the hell you want to work on, but it better end up using the laser as the solution because this is a laser lab. And that's what we do. And otherwise, you don't belong in my lab. And this is what the typical PhD program or master's program is like. You're going to go get a master's degree or a PhD degree with somebody who has deep technical expertise in one area. And they're going to, like a hammer, walk around banging on everything. Like they're going to assume everything is a nail because that's the tool they have, a hammer. So it's really important in CBID that you avoid this pitfall. And I can tell you, I got a PhD. I came up with the most amazing diagnostic test that works better than anything out there, except it never helped anybody because it was too expensive, too complicated to use, and it never saved anyone's life. Nothing to brag about. A better approach is to start with a medical problem, understand it completely when you get to this yellow dot, and then solve it. So now you get to the second yellow dot, you've solved the problem completely. And then you put together the business plan, reimbursement strategy, regulatory strategy, all of that. You get to the third dot, you're ready to go, and then you execute on it. What could possibly go wrong with this? First person to answer gets 3 points. What could go wrong with this? It makes a lot of sense. You start with the problem, solve it, put together the business plan, and then execute on it. Nobody? Anybody have an idea? What could go wrong with this approach? All right, I'm going to call on you, Seemal, since you answered from Britain.
I
Why not?
can answer in like
Go
person.
ahead.
Because I feel like that will be easier. This is really like linear and asking like, oh, like, okay, we have a problem in medicine and we're going to solve it completely before we even talk to the business people. I feel like it should be way more of a relationship that's like going always, like you're finding a problem, you're talking back and forth with the clinical people to figure out the solutions while also talking business wise, how can we make this cost effective? How can we make this the best possible like thing and solution for both the doctors and business wise and like kind of combine everything into one process together is what I would say the issue is.
Excellent. That's like a 5 point answer, don't you think, guys? That's a good answer. That's a really good answer. There's a little bit of arrogance in this thing, and I think Paula put it really nicely. You need to revisit and get feedback and redesign. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So it's like a lot of arrogance. You assume that you've totally understood the problem. How often have you started to work on a problem and you realize once you start working on it that you didn't really understand the problem until you try to solve it? You kind of have to take some steps. And the thing is, these things interact with each other. They have a lot of interaction with each other. So at CBID, what we've designed is a methodology to avoid the failure that you neglect any of these four quadrants in your process. So it's problem solving and true innovation. Not like building an apartment building where all the rules of physics and laws and regulations are so tight that you can predict and make a Gantt chart, a project work plan that goes for like, a year, and you can predict everything down to the month and the cost down to the dollar. This is like hiking in the mountains where you can see you can't see the whole pathway. You can see maybe the first 100 steps, and until you take those 100 steps, you can't see the next 100 steps. So you and your team will have to do this and be comfortable. To be successful at CBID, you have to be comfortable with ambiguity, with taking the initiative, with marching even if you're not 100% sure, but taking the risk, doing something, trying it out, finding out why it's wrong, and then going back and iterating, as Paulo put it so nicely, revisiting and doing it again. So the program, and we'll teach you how to do that. The program has some great successes. This is one of our spinouts. We've had many now. This one was a team of students working with some orthopedic surgeons here who created this company called Spinal Line, and they're doing really well. This guy was David Galati was a CBID student, then he went on to medical school, and then he's now doing a surgery residence here. Amir was the founder of the company, CBID master student, and founded the company and made a few $1 million exiting that. Eddie was advisor to the team, and he's also a CBID graduate who is now investor in medtech, very successful guy. Here's another one, tissue analytics. Really simple idea on how to use a camera to measure a chronic wound, the size of the wound. Okay, here's another 5-point question. The team was able to correct. Now imagine if you're trying to use your cell phone camera to measure the size of a wound, the camera could be far away or close by, or it could be at an angle, okay? How are you gonna get an accurate measurement of the shape of the wound using a camera, handheld? Anybody have an answer for that? Standard reference, yes. Well, like what? Okay, Rishin, what standard reference? What would you recommend?
If I could
But
recommend
yes,
like rulers, or maybe like something that have a more like general but standard, like maybe a bottle of water. They generally have the similar size of it, or something like that you can grab so you can recognize it and then reference it to the right size.
excellent. Okay, Elise and Luis got the answer that we used. I mean, there's a lot of pictures, but that's the answers. So I sent them to the office supply store, and I said, I want you to buy a box of 1,000 of these little stickers you put on the folders. Same color, same batch, printed all the same. And whenever you're taking a picture of the wound, put that sticker next to it, and then the rest of it's software, because you can tell the angle, because the circle becomes an oval if it's at an angle. You can tell the illumination because the color will change based on what the illumination is in the room. So the students, just based on that, were able to get the accuracy from 50% down to less than 5%. And they were able to actually characterize the type of tissue, all with a 1 penny sticker. It's really, this is what we in engineering call an elegant solution, a low-cost solution to the problem. I'm going to skip ahead because I want the students to talk a little bit more. Example spin-outs, and then countries that we've done projects. Like I said, we do projects all around the world. These are countries we've done projects in the past, and now, I have to add Colombia to the map next time. Some more spread. We've had actually great spin-outs on the global health side, like the company that is supporting Haley's work is a spin-out from CBID called Vector Cam. This is one that's a cryoablation tool for cervical cancer that CBID students developed that's now on the market. This is one that's a telemedicine tool that uses AI that's on the market. They also sponsor a team, and very successful. I invite you to go to intellihealth.org. Just check them out. Here's another one that uses machine learning, which we now just call AI, just to make it sound cool, for cataract screening with a camera. So a lot of projects, amazing success. And you'll be joining a cohort of about 300 alums for the program. And Aditya keeps track of all of them. And if you need to find a job, he'll connect you up with people. About most of our graduates go into industry, some into further graduate schools, some go to their startups, some go to government or not-for-profits. This is the CBID year in 3 phases. So you start in the summer and you do clinical rotations. So Haley, what are some of the rotations that you did?
Yeah, so for the first month or so, we do totally general rotations, just to get a sense of like how to behave in a hospital and what to pay attention to. So I saw tons of stuff: orthopedic surgery, reconstructive surgery, neurosurgery, and then I specialize with my team into urology. So we saw a lot of stuff with the Da Vinci, which is a really cool minimally invasive surgical tool that they have here at Hopkins, and then some other open surgeries, really a wide range of stuff. It's been really great.
So at the end of phase 1, where did you end up? What is the need that you chose, the
Yeah.
target, innovation target for your team?
Yeah, so our innovation target is expanding bladder cancer screening, making it more accessible, making it so more providers can do it. And this came from seeing a lot of cystoscopies, which is actually a fairly simple procedure that can be done inpatient, outpatient, or in the office.
Wonderful. And now Haley and her teammates are in phase 2, which is the next 4 months up until the end of winter, middle of winter, where they're coming up with hundreds of ways to solve the problem. And then they're going to pick the top solution. How about you, Natasha? What were some of your clinical rotations?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was on the emergency medicine team, and so it was really cool. We got to shadow on EMS trucks as well as in the emergency department. So we spent a lot of night shifts in the Baltimore downtown ED, got to see some, motorcycle crashes, gunshot wounds, like all kinds of crazy trauma cases, as well as just like your regular patients that, fell and hit their head and come in. And so it was very cool to see a wide variety of patient populations, but you also got to see kind of like what is the first line of care that patients receive when you show up to the ED, either on an ambulance or walking into the ED, and then how doctors have to like quickly decide and treat you to stabilize you and then bring you into the hospital or discharge you to get the next best level of care.
Fantastic. You know, I guess SIBA attracts some interesting personalities. Natasha's the only person I know that can say gunshot wound and terrible motorcycle accident with a big smile on her face, laughing at the same time. Sabrina, what were your clinical rotations?
Yeah, so again, my US project was in head and neck oncology, and I had alluded to these procedures being brutal. That was definitely some of them. I think head and neck surgery is a little archaic these days in the sense that there's no like minimally, or there still really aren't many minimally invasive procedures in the space to deal with cancer removal in the head and neck area. So a lot of what we saw would be like people like craniotomies or people getting their like faces ripped open or like really big reconstructions where people would be taking skin from the thigh, or surgeons would be taking skin from the thigh and then like grafting it into the patient's face in order to fill a defect that had been taken out several weeks prior and the patient had healed in that time. So we saw a lot of, I guess, a little more intense procedures, but also we saw a lot of more like normal and common procedures like septoplasties, paroidectomies. These are procedures where you access, say, like the base of the skull and you take out a small, really small tumor there, or you have a tumor in like your cheek and then they make a small incision and they take that out. So definitely a wide range of things. I think everything was always very interesting to me. I personally had a lot of needs that I fell in love with very quickly, just seeing these procedures over and over. And my whole team did, and we were able to put all of our input together to choose our top need eventually.
So then in the phase 2, the teams will be picking one innovation target and working on that and coming up with ways to solve it. And then the last, 4 months will be building that, testing it, evaluating it, perhaps throwing that idea out and saying this is a bad idea, or building evidence around it. But evidence not just from the medical. You notice I have the four topics here in this diagram. give you a little bit about hint about our mindset about how to iteratively go through all 4 of these themes throughout the year. Sometimes the idea doesn't make sense technically. Sometimes it doesn't make sense from a business perspective. And sometimes it'll fail actually having any medical benefit, or sometimes you as a team fail in executing on it, or you don't have the right team or resource to execute on it. So it could fail for any number of reasons. But that's the goal of the third of the year, 4 months, is to build out in all of these 4 dimensions your project. So let's see. So that's really the gist of my presentation. It's really a team journey that you and your teammates will be going on together. You really get to know them well, and to really build something of lasting value. So thanks for your attention. I just want to stop here and see if there's any more questions.
Can I pop in with a question?
Sure.
For the student like alumni and like Haley obviously still in it. One of the questions I was just wondering is like did you guys feel like from your undergrad like degrees that you had like enough engineering skills to actually like build the products or like create the solutions, or do you feel like the program helps give you like some guidance on like the engineering side of like actually building whatever the solutions are that you're building?
I can jump in here because
Yeah, go ahead.
I went to a liberal arts school, so I actually didn't have an engineering degree from my school. So coming from that background, I had a lot of experience with like CAD and rapid prototyping that I just did for my passion projects, but I wasn't coming into this program with like a formal engineering degree. And yeah, I think you do really get to learn from the professors here, as well as your peers. So since you're working with a team of 5 or 6 people for the whole year, like you really get to grow from their experience as well. So you can take technical engineering courses, you're required to, through Hopkins. So you can get like a formal background from all of the courses offered at Hopkins. But I've honestly learned a lot from my peers, from my teammates, just from being with them kind of all day long. We really build off of each other's experience and learn from that.
Excellent. Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, I can jump in a little as well. Like Dr. Yazzie mentioned, the CBID program is like teaching you to be a leader, and part of that is recruiting people with probably more expertise than you, and building partnerships. So like the faculty and the other professors with more deep technical expertise are readily available, and almost like I've never had an email from a professor like not be answered. So that just shows you how willing they are to collaborate. I would say like your undergrad knowledge, my background was in BME as an undergrad, gave you the foundational skills to understand like what is engineering, what is math, like you can do the basic formulas, do things like that, know kind of like what is missing from the engineering skills in order to develop your project, and then go out and recruit those people to join your team. So you don't have to be the only engineer, and that's great because you have a team of people with other expertise, like Haley mentioned, like on her own team, but also at the school and the greater Baltimore ecosystem.
Wonderful, wonderful. So there's some more questions. And so Elise, you asked how many students typically stay for year 2 fellowship. Typically, we have 4 fellowship slots. Sometimes we'll have additional funding. We're able to expand it to 5 or 6, but typically it's 4. I think this year, how many do we have this year, Natasha, in your group of fellows?
We have 6 fellows this year.
6 fellows. Yeah, this is a big group. This is a big group, one of our biggest. And that's because a couple of them are funded by other programs or projects. Yeah. Any other questions? Did we answer your question, Camila? Jack, you want to ask your unmute and ask your question? Jack, are you there? So to current students, how has your group been? Oh, you entered the waiting room. I guess you got kicked out. Okay. All right.
Oh, hi. Sorry, my mic is working now. I just wondered to the current students right now. I was wondering how the teammates were this year and how that's going for you.
We won't tell. Be honest, Haley. How's it going?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been great. It's been really fun. Yeah, you get to know your group really closely, especially with the 3-week global travel. So it's kind of a nice like immersive experience to start off the year, just getting to know everyone like right up front. You really get through all those like barriers of nerves. So then you're just stuck with them for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
It's really
that must suck.
fun.
All right. Thank you, Haley.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just answer Simo's question out loud because it's a great question. So every team will do 2 projects, both the U.S. Health Project, which is where you'll do the rotations in the hospital at Hopkins, and that will give you experience to narrow down a need from that side, and also a global health project. So global health works a little bit differently. We have carry on projects because to have impact in a global health sphere, sometimes it takes multiple years. So like Haley currently working on the VectorCam, like a portion of the VectorCam team. It's like kind of a follow-on project that they've brought on. And they also get to take it their own direction. And every year bringing on a new team kind of gives it a new insight, new passion. So you can take things to impact, and that's how the projects have gotten this far. But we also have had teams that have started as first year global health teams. Sabrina, if you want to talk about your global health project.
Yeah, for TV in India. So last year was not the first year that CBID did a TV project for global health or an India project. However, um, we had our last year was our first year partnering with the Gupta Klinsky India Institute, and their scope specifically was they wanted a CBID team to do needs finding in a latent TB, latent tuberculosis screening space and figure out gaps along that workflow. So that was something that CBID specializes in. We as students, you're trained to do that in the summer before you head off to whatever country and LMIC that you're working in. And from there, we were able to do a lot of needs finding for them. And that spurred them to then fund this team for a second year and me as the fellow. So now we have a second year team this year, and we're continuing the collaboration, continuing a specific scope within the project, which is based on TB skin testing. But yeah, a lot of the projects for global health will kind of not change too much, but they'll flow from year to year as you need a lot more than 1 year in order to actually make an impact in the space.
Who wants to answer Sushian's question? Great question.
Yeah, it's a question. I can take this one. So in 1 year, you're very limited in what you can achieve, but the idea is that you have a really good idea of what problem you're going after, and you've done 1 round of the CBID spiral that Dr. Yasi shared. You have to go through multiple iterations of that spiral over and over to get to like something that's going to enter a market, and that almost always goes beyond the CBID year, which is why the fellowship is a great opportunity to stay on, continue working on the project, and go through spirals and continue innovating. And we've also had teams continue the projects independently on their own time and carry it forward as well. But a great place to be at, and I think where we were at in May, is we had benchtop data proving our concept, and we had a basic MVP of our design. So we had a prototype that worked. We had data to show why we believed that this could work and why we believed this would solve the problem that we were going after. And that really like carried us forward to where we are now.
It's rare that you can, I would say, I don't want to, dissuade Haley, but 1 out of 5 teams comes up with an idea that really has a potential to go forward. That's been the kind of the track record. Every team works on something that's meaningful. We won't let you work on a problem unless it's really a meaningful problem to work on. And every team gives it the fair shake in terms of exploring a wide range of ideas, but you can't force innovation. Sometimes your first idea doesn't work. You, like as Natasha said, you'll need a couple of years sometimes to get it right. Next question, Luis. Who wants to answer Luis's question? Throughout the year process, as you go through the 3 phases and seek to refine a solution,
Yeah, it
where,
kind of
yeah,
relates
go ahead.
to that 1 year process. So it's a
Yeah.
really intense, faster process. So how were there teams that they had a device, they tried it, and they needed to pivot because that's often a common experience when developing ideas or technologies. And how did you handle the pivots if that happened in your project?
Yeah,
Who's gonna,
I can continue to answer this and just speak to my experience. So after we shadowed, we came up with, I think, like 500 needs in the emergency department space. And we had to really narrow down going through the spiral. We started in the medical quadrant, then we went to the business quadrant. We were like, are these feasible business ideas? Like, is there a technical way that we can solve this that our team has expertise on? And that helped us narrow it down. And we pivoted many times. Like, I was very tied and in love with this need for like blood pressure monitoring, and we realized like there was no business model, no business case for it, and we had to switch, and we pivoted to the current need that we're on now. And even once we started solution ideating, like we had certain solutions that were way too expensive to create or manufacture that were like, okay, we need to narrow down and define. So I think what CBID gives you the base to do is know what information you need to know to make a decision that's like the most well-informed decision you could with the information available to you. And two, know that like even if you have to pivot, how can you rapidly test things to know whether you're right or wrong in this model. So even in 1 year, like doing initial benchtop data, having ways to test our device, we like would get pig blood from a butcher shop to test our device on, because that was the fastest way to get, you know, some kind of blood, and it was cheap and it worked. And so that helped us narrow down from like, I think over 100 different prototypes to our end prototype. So you definitely will face pivots. I think what I will say is like you need to have in mind that like just because you face a challenge, it's not like a roadblock. It's more of like a change in direction, and it's okay. And sometimes those pivots are what's going to get you to, you know, your end solution. That's really great. So yeah.
Wonderful. Abby has a question. Abby, what's your question?
I was gonna ask, I read that there's multiple steps of the application process, and I just wanted to know which applicants stood out in the online application and then in the following interviews.
So I don't think any of the fellows, have you guys been through, you haven't been on the admissions committee yet. The fellows haven't. We're good. The fellows actually join us on the admissions committee for the next cycle. So I'll take a quick stab at that. The really CBID looks for 5 traits: super smart, super creative, creative in the problem solving way, some technical area of expertise, something, and it could be in the medical field or biochemical field, but something, some street cred technically. 4th, the personality that will enable you to work well on a team. Some people like to be the lone ranger and get things done by on their own, but you really need to be successful in medtech innovation. You really need to be able to work effectively on a team of people who are really different from you. And last but not least, people who have a passion for medical innovation. So those are the big criteria. How do you demonstrate that you're a good problem solver, that you're smart, et cetera, et cetera? There are various ways to do that. But that's what we'll be looking for, both on the paper review, and we do have a very detailed process because it's a small program, and our reputation is really based on the reputation and the performance of Natasha and Sabrina and Haley and other prior students on how well they interact with the doctors. Like when Haley wants to go and meet with, like, tell us how much prep you put into going to meet with like the head of urology.
Oh yeah. We have one-on-one meetings with the chair of urology, which was very intimidating at first, but we ended up just like getting to know the entire department, including like, you know, the administrative people, the nurses, everyone from bottom up that makes it work. So once you get to know everyone, it gets much easier, but you go into it with like pages of notes that you want to structure for your interviews and stuff.
Yeah. So if Haley were to have gone into that meeting and started asking about the heart and heart disease, then she would be kicked out of his office, and not only that, CBID would be kicked out of his office. So we have to have people in the program that demonstrate the ability to be really quick on their feet, sharp, to do the hard work of researching before they go into a meeting like that. Any other questions? We have like 2 more minutes left. Well, listen, thank you all so much. Thank you, Haley, for taking the time. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Aditya, for taking the time. Thank you all for joining this info session. I hope you learned something about the program. I want to congratulate each and every one of you for thinking about making medical innovation uh, a passion of yours and a direction you want to take in your career. I can say this, wherever you go and wherever your path takes you in this field, there's nothing better you could be doing with your time and your creativity and your energy than to help people suffering from disease and illness around the world. So good luck to each and every one of you, wherever you go in this journey. Very nice to see you all. And if you have further questions, feel free to email the CBID address, and you could ask, say you want this question answered by one of the existing students like Haley, or one of the fellows, or one of the alums from years ago, or somebody who's going into medicine, or is a surgeon right now, a medical student right now, or a doctor right now. You can have the question directed to anywhere you want to go. Good luck, everybody.
I can also just jump in and say, Haley
Sure.
and I both dropped our Hopkins email addresses in the chat. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. I see Natasha just dropped hers as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out
thank
any
you.
questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to end the meeting. I'll leave the meeting running. If there's additional comments real quick, if you want to catch or copy all the email addresses or whatever, so it won't disappear. So you'll have access to that for like maybe a couple of minutes. And if you have any questions for me, of course, send the email to CBID and say, I have a question for Dr. Yazdi, and I'll be happy to answer. Good luck, everybody. Take care.